you can't buy the old one. It's just going to become the new one anyway.
Is the people that are currently using them will want the same performance characteristics that they've currently got.
I can't say I saw masses of difference out of all the brands releasing product in the last couple of weeks. This was the one that I peeled off the head cover, put it down, and
hello and welcome to the Gear of the Week show. In this episode, we have got a smorgasbord of new releases from Titleist in the new ProV1 and ProV1x, Wilson Dynapower woods, Mizuno metal woods, and we're going to chat about the Cobra King Tec range as well. I'm joined, as always, by Neil Tappin, but for the very first time, Golf Monthly staff writer Sam De'Ath. Sam, hello, how are you? Say hello to everybody.
I'm good. How are you?
Yeah, living the dream, mate, living the dream. So you joined Golf Monthly back in December. You've been diligently testing for us over the winter. Why don't you introduce yourself to the viewers and listeners? And then I'm going to ask you a little bit about what you've enjoyed testing so far.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. So, joined Golf Monthly back in December as a staff writer. So I have played professionally over the last 3 years. I've worked in the golf industry for 12 plus years now. So I would say kind of my equipment knowledge is extensive, and I'd say I'm a bit of a golf nerd anyway. In terms of my equipment, I love my equipment, and I'm mainly looking after fairway woods and hybrids, and I've been lucky enough to be testing all those over the winter and seeing all the new releases.
What's your handicap, Sam?
That was my next question. Just gas yourself up, Sam. Come on, tell everybody.
No, I don't have an official handicap yet. I'm waiting for reinstatement.
If we were to play in a friendly match, what would you be claiming stood on the first tee?
Well, I try and get away with scratch. As a professional golfer, should always be scratch, right? So, but no, when I play with my friends, it ranges anywhere between kind of +2 and +6, depending on how well I'm playing at the time.
That's too low.
Too low. Sam's a good golfer, everybody. I think that's what we're trying to get across here. And he's the perfect man to be testing mostly fairways and hybrids for us, but you have had a hit at some of the drivers as well. Just quickly before we get stuck into this episode, obviously now we've had most of the major releases come out, Ping, Cobra, TaylorMade, Titleist came out. Am I missing one? The Callaway, of course. What have been your impressions so far, Sam? What have you enjoyed testing?
All of it's really impressed me this year, actually. I've always been one that once I've found a fairway, I'm very much stuck with that fairway. I don't like changing a whole lot, but this year has really put a few thoughts in my mind about changing out my equipment for this coming year. There's a few that have particularly impressed me. The Callaway, the Paradigm Triple Diamond, for me, I spin the ball quite a bit. I launch it quite high, so something that just keeps it a bit lower, a bit more stable through the wind. That's ideal for me. So the Triple Diamond, but then just in terms of overall feel and performance, the Ping G430, I think ticks kind of all the boxes in terms of aesthetics as well as performance. So I'm looking forward to kind of trying that one out a bit more, and seeing what I can get out of that.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to the golf courses defrosting here in the UK or not being so wet, so I can actually get out and play with some of this new equipment we're talking about. And we've got some metal woods I know you quite enjoyed. The Mizuno we're going to chat about a little bit later in this episode. Neil Tappin, hello. I haven't said hello to you yet. How are you? Going to have a quiz question in a minute, I think.
I'm well. Shall I get straight into the quiz question?
Let's crack on with it.
I look forward to the most in this podcast.
Same.
I'm not going to lie. Okay, I like catching you out, Dan, which is a fairly regular occurrence.
Yeah, Sam, good luck with this. I'm notoriously bad at these, so
I'm nervous.
Start with a winning record. Yeah.
Well, you're both a little bit younger than I am, so I guess there's a mitigating factor if you don't get the answer for this. But cast your minds back a few years and tell me, if you can, what was the first... There are two answers to this question, but I can take either of them or both of them. What was the first white driver from TaylorMade?
Oh,
that's a great question, Neil.
There were two drivers at the same time that were white, so I'll take.
I know. I think I know the answer.
Very bold.
That's a little clue, I think.
I do, but I'm not sure if we're counting it or not.
Same. Okay, I'm going to come out and say definitely. It might not be the first, but it was early on. It's the Rocket Balls range. Is that too late?
Okay, so I think it's the R1, but it kind of had the orange and silver or black kind of highlighting on the back of it, but I don't know if that's classed as an all-white driver, but it definitely had a white crown.
Did R11 come out before Rocket Balls? Because I'm now remembering R11 all of a sudden. So maybe I want to say R11. I'm going to lock in Rocket Balls, though. I'm going with my gut.
And as is so often the case, your gut's wrong.
It's going horribly, horribly wrong for
No,
me.
you should have gone R11. It was R11 and it was Burner Superfast. Launched at the beginning of 2011, so 12 years ago now. And, you know, a big change in the world of golf, wasn't it? I remember when I was introduced to it for the first time by the guys from TaylorMade saying, we've got this coming and we're making it white, and thinking to myself, I can't believe they're going to do that. And they did. And it was incredibly popular, I think.
Was that the equivalent of like how Stealth had the red face back in 2011? Was everyone like, oh my God, white top of drive? Is that the sort of 10-year equivalent of? I had that R11 as well. I had the R11.
I remember the white head cover with the heart on it.
Do you know what? It was a similar thing, Dan, when they did the RBZ, the Rocket Balls woods. It was a similar reaction in terms of, I can't believe they're going to call it Rocket Balls. But they did.
Oh, was it?
It was very popular. It was a really good product.
Okay, so another incorrect quiz question for me. Thank you, Neil. And lucky Sam as well, but you're not as bad as I am. Yeah,
you obviously didn't. The revision we talked about over the Christmas period, Dan. You obviously didn't take that very seriously.
Maybe I was drinking and eating too much tapas as opposed to doing my golf club history work. Maybe this is the year. Okay, should we crack on with some new equipment, chaps? Because we've been chatting a lot here. Let's go into Titleist now. New ProV1 and ProV1x have been launched last week. They'll be available in February, I believe. I know that they've been playing it on the tour for a little while. Tapper's new iterations come with the ProV1 every 2 years. It's tricky with the golf ball, I think, to really sort of tell people what's new and exciting about it, because it's still white or yellow and it's still round with dimples on. What is new and exciting about ProV1 and ProV1x? And another interesting thing with golf balls is you can't buy the old one. It's just going to become the new one anyway. So what are people going to see from this different, or feel from it different from your testing?
Yeah, very good points, and such an important launch actually when you think about the number of people that play both of these products. In terms of what's new, so Titleist have introduced a new core into both the ProV1 and ProV1x. It's called a high density core construction, which basically means that it's firmer around the outside and then gets progressively softer towards the middle. Titleist say this should help reduce spin in the long game, add a little bit of ball speed. I know they've also made some tweaks to their manufacturing process to help improve the overall consistency of the product. Those would be the key technological advancements. And as always with the golf ball, you make one change in one area and it affects the performance of the golf ball as a whole. So the way in which all of those layers interact with each other becomes slightly different. What I would say is, and it's difficult with these two products because the people that are currently using them will want the same performance characteristics that they've currently got. So you'll still want a slightly lower spinning performance if you're already in a ProV1. You'll want that higher launch, higher flight if you're already in a ProV1x. So making changes without drastically altering the DNA of the product is the challenge the Titleist engineers have every year. I think they've done a really good job because in my testing, I thought that with ProV1x, I noticed a bit of a bump in ball speed. As you said, Dan, it's hard to test because variations in strike can affect the numbers, but certainly, and this is why it's so important to test golf equipment while you're out on the golf course. I tested the ProV1x down at Prince's just before Christmas. We had a golf monthly event where we all played, and I thought the performance on a very cold, windy day,
very cold,
very cold.
Yeah, very cold. I thought the performance in the long game was superb. Those were the two areas. So I think it was strokes gained off the tee and strokes gained from the fairway were my two best categories for looking at my Arcos data from that round of golf. Given that I had a new golf ball in play, and I hadn't played golf for a while before that, and the conditions, I was impressed by the performance. With the ProV1, I just thought that I was getting a bit more performance with the mid-iron. So I was getting a little bit more of more distance. But given that it's the lower spinning of the two balls, I think Titleist have done a good job to make sure that you still get good stopping power when you're hitting into the greens in the mid-irons. Look, for me, it's not a drastic difference. I'm not expecting a drastic difference. It's one of the most popular, one of the most popular equipment franchises in the history of the game. but I think they've done a good job of kind of moving it in a better direction, whilst also leaving space in the range for the AVX, for those really high spinning players to help them control their ball flight. So yeah, I was impressed by what I saw, and I will certainly be putting the ProV1x straight into play.
Yeah, and I mean, if you're a ProV1 user now or X user, you will love the new ball and you'll go into it anyway. That's how it is. It might attract new people into the ball. Who knows? Sam, are you a ProV1 or X user? And I know you've hit some of the prototypes of this. How did you find it out on course?
Yeah, I have played ProV1x for the last couple of years. I've kind of dabbled between the two.
Yeah.
I'm someone, as much as I stay quite consistent with my like the longer clubs in my bag, I like to change around putter. I'm changing around frequently, as well as golf ball. I quite like trying a few different things, just all the different brand options, especially with kind of when Mizuno released their ball, as well as Bridgestone after kind of announcing Tiger and Bryson. I was interested to try that Torby X ball, just to see if it offered me anything different than what I'm used to. And like we said earlier, the Titleist ProV1 and ProV1x have been one of the biggest golf ball franchises for a long time now, and that's a golf ball that I've always stuck with, knowing that it offered true performance. So yeah, I've tested the prototype very briefly due to obviously the weather in the UK over the last couple of weeks. It hasn't been ideal, but yeah, I can't say I saw masses of difference. Granted, I haven't tested it on launch monitor, so my numbers may have differed slightly, but as far as it goes from testing it on the course in terms of feel as well as what ball flight I was seeing, it was very similar to previous year's models.
Yeah, and when I spoke with Titleist, they sort of say the same thing, but they're proud of that. I think they're proud that the performance is the same. But as you said, Tappers, just moving on slightly. So they're available from February in all your normal colours and dozens, etc. Exciting new golf balls to talk about. Okay, so let's talk about Wilson's newest launch, their carbon driver, the Dynapower. I've not had it in hand or hit it yet, but Tappers, I know you've had a hit of it. Joel's full review will be in the description below if you go and read. But what were your thoughts on it, Tappers? I'm really interested to know, because it's a big step for Wilson. Feels like they're trying to get there with the big boys now, as it were.
Very appealing. Thought it was really good. I thought it had a nice mix of looking expensive, which we all like. We want our stuff to look
absolutely.
I thought it had a sort of an aspirational look about it that immediately I thought, okay, that's nice. And then I hit it and I thought it was very playable. Now, I've only hit it the once on the launch monitor, but I did hit it up against a lot of the other drivers that have been launched so far this year, and the performance was comparable. I'd say that if anything, it probably spun for me a fraction more than some of the models that were bang right in my sort of wheelhouse of what I would want to use. But that's not to say that with a fitting I wouldn't be able to get that spin down a fraction. I
think Joel's review is saying pretty similar. For me, it's just a driver that I think people should try and not write off immediately. Looks don't actually do it for me, from the soul anyway. But who sees the driver from the soul? So who cares? Do love the crown. And I think it can compete this year. I think it can. They've brought adjustability back, which I think is quite important as well. Don't think they had it in the last one. I can't remember now. Sam, I know you haven't hit this, but you were there when Tappers was hitting it. You've seen it in hand. General thoughts on the Dynapower?
Yeah, I think from the crown and from the looks at address, it looks very modern, very sleek, very much on brand with what companies are trying to produce over the last couple of years. In terms of sound, like I said, I haven't hit it, but it sounded really good when hit inside, provided that kind of thud that you'd look for out of a powerful sounding driver. I think for me, that kind of epitomizes almost a premium driver, which it shouldn't probably be the case. But when something sounds a bit more tinny, it doesn't, to me, sound as premium. And so that thud that's kind of been synonymous with TaylorMade over the years, and Callaway have gone into that. And now Ping have obviously toned down their sound on their driver. That powerful sound is the thing that I definitely noticed out of the Dynapower driver.
Nice one. So forgiving, still long, nice sound. I think things looking good for Wilson if they want to sort of compete with the big boys here. And £420 RRP, that's coming in, next to the Cobra Aerojet and well below Callaway, and Ping. So something I think golfers should go and try if they're looking for a new driver. They should get it in your hand, see how it feels. Don't write it off too early because it's not one of the bigger names. I think simple as that. Okay, let's move on to Mizuno, new ST230 metalwoods. I want to come to you firstly on this, Sam, because we were chatting about this before we started recording today. And to you, these are some of the best looking fairway woods this year, if not you've ever put in your hand. Is that too bold to say?
No, definitely this year. Out of all the brands releasing product in the last couple of weeks, this was the one that I peeled off the head cover, put it down, and really liked it. It's I've always been one for more classic looks, and so the black gloss crown with the carbon at the back frames the ball really well, looks really inviting to hit, and that it just overall looks really good. When I hit it inside, it probably launched and spun a little more than I'd look for in a fairway wood. Like I said previously, I like something that kind of stays a bit lower, a bit less spinning and more stable, but that's not to say that without a custom fitting or putting my own personal kind of upcharge shaft in there, I wouldn't get the performance that I would look for out of a fairway wood. So really impressed with it. Looks good and feels great as well.
Do you think, obviously, we spoke about how your handicap and your ability to strike the ball, you probably put a different shaft in there. Forgiveness wise, this is a hard club for a lot of golfers to get right higher up the handicap spectrum. What was it like, turf interaction wise? Can you see this going in a range of golfers' bags?
Yeah, so I'm actually glad you brought up the forgiveness side of things here. So this was, in fact, probably the most forgiving fairway wood that I've tested over the last couple of weeks. I think, if I can remember rightly from my data, I hit 5 shots with it, and the furthest away was 5.8 yards left offline. And so if that's the furthest left I'm ever going to hit a golf ball, then sign me up now, because I will put that in play. But yeah, in terms of what they've done technology wise, so they've integrated this new technology core tech chamber, which let me see if I can grab it here for you. So this Wonderful. Blue channel here encases a stainless steel weight, meaning they've pushed the center of gravity forward and lower, which ultimately produces launch with slightly lower spin, and it's super forgiving on off-center hits. The fact they've put this carbon crown on the top as well has also lowered center of gravity.
Yeah.
Also producing more forgiveness, which, definitely ran true when testing.
Brilliant. Well, sounds like an excellent fairway wood, and I've not seen it in person yet. Would have flashed some images up for those watching on YouTube. It looks fantastic, doesn't it? And that Mizuno blue is such a great shade of blue. I don't know what the exact Pantone is, but they've nailed that. Mizuno blue is class. So I think one for a lot of golfers there to look at, that Mizuno fairway wood. Neil, the drivers, thoughts, feelings? Are you as glowing as Sam is about the fairway woods?
It's a similar story, but let me ask you a quick question. What do you think of the head cover?
Yeah, all about it. I love that kind of, like I just said, that Pantone and Mizuno blue is.
Last year, I think they had a sort of black and grey head cover. This one is sort of classic Mizuno. I really like that. Anyway,
you've got a Mizuno driver in the bag then. Do you know what I mean? They're shouting about them being Mizuno. I like it. Yeah,
it's more about what's underneath the head cover. Actually,
definitely.
With this, you've got 2 versions. So you've got a Z, which is so there's the Z and the X. The X version is draw biased. They both sit square down behind the ball. So the draw bias version sits nice and square, a bit like the Ping G430 SFT driver. It's not a club that is offset or is toed in and makes you feel like you're going to hit it left if you are prone to hitting the odd one left, which I really liked. And in my data, that X version did deliver on that promise of delivering the draw bias flight. However, if I was picking between the two, it would be the straighter Z version, which I really liked. Sort of liked it from a kind of consistency standpoint from the moment I hit it. As Sam said, so classic. I mean, this is exactly what Mizuno should be doing. They should be producing golf clubs that are really sharp, really classic. This fits the bill, but so did last year's, and so did the generation before that. This is very much the evolution, the look. In terms of, I think I've got the older generation behind that.
You do have an absolute wealth of golf clubs behind you. There must be one in there somewhere.
Yes, this is like one generation next to the other generations. For those people who are able to see this, I'm not sure you can. It's
couldn't.
very
Yeah,
the big
very
difference
similar.
is that the crown from the crown view is the white alignment logo on the top. So if I had one criticism, it would be that it's quite hard to tell the difference actually between one generation and the next. Having said that, I do love what they've done with the sole. And I just think it's a really good product.
And price-wise, Tappers, I think is it's an important thing to consider when we talk about new drivers, just to place it in the space with its competitors. Where's this one coming in?
Comes in at $499.
Okay.
So a little bit less than your Callaway's, your Pings, but not too much less, and above where Cobra sits. I think it sits alongside Strixon.
Alongside Strixon and then alongside Stealth Plus. I'm getting all my RRPs mixed up, to be honest. Now there've been so many launches, but it's somewhere. Mizuno's somewhere in the middle, we'll say. But I think importantly with the Fairwood, with the driver, and we spoke about Dynapower, two brands that probably get lost in the marketing, bomb, as it were, from some of the other brands, and something that if you are in the market for a new Fairwood, new driver, get it in your hand. If you don't like it, that's fine. But I think, give it the time of day.
I have one last thing to say, Dan, if you'll allow me.
Oh, please.
I think of all the clubs all the drivers I've tested this year, this is the range where I would advise people to go for a good custom fitting, because the Z and the X, the X version is actually a little bit more compact down behind the ball than the Z version, which you're not expecting to see from the draw biased version. So it's a little bit different. It's different in terms of looks. I also spun the X version a little bit less than I did the Z version, which is not what
strange.
Exactly not what I was expecting. I think it's just down to the way in which you deliver the club to the ball. So the good thing is they both look great. So you're going to go in. You should be going in with a completely open mind, because they both look fantastic down behind the ball. And I think that fitting process will help you identify which one's right for you. Going in with a preconceived idea of that's the one for me or that's the one for me, you might find that you end up surprised that you're actually in the other one.
Good point, I think, Tappers, generally with fitting as well. And we've seen a lot of drivers this year, that have 2 or 3 heads in them, perform either really similarly in the case of maybe Aerojet, or quite differently by the sound of it than you might expect in the case of the Mizuno. So yeah, go open-minded. If you're a high handicapper, don't think you're automatically going to be in the max or the draw version, for example, I think is a good point. Okay, good stuff. That's Mizuno ST230. Final bit of new gear we need to talk about for the end of this episode is Cobra King. Now, this King franchise is their better player franchise, faster swing speed, lower handicap. We've had Aerojet, which I think we really enjoyed. We'll get Joel on in a couple of weeks to talk about the King irons, because I think these could be a huge hit this year. But we're going to chat about the hybrid and the utility iron today. We've all tested it. Sam, I'm going to come to you first because I know you really liked it. The King Tec Hybrid, it's one of the best hybrids I've ever seen. It really is. I think it's awesome. We'll flash pictures up now. Matte black that sort of fades out slightly toward the back, dark face. I think it's awesome. Do you agree?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Good.
Good. In terms of performance, it was honestly probably hands down the best hybrid I tested. That's not to say that it would go straight in my bag, however.
I'm the same. Carry on, but I totally agree.
Yeah, and I mean, when I look for a hybrid, I'm looking for a long iron replacement. Normally, for me, it's a 3 or a 2 iron replacement. So it has to go a certain distance anyway, just to gap my between my irons and my fairway woods. The problem I had with the King Tec Hybrid is that it just went too far. Yeah, which is a great problem to have for most people, but honestly, it just didn't fit in my bag, because I was testing, I believe it was the 19 degrees, so the 3 iron replacement. But it was carrying up there with some of the 3 woods that I tested this year. I think I got one out at 249 carry, which for me is just ridiculous.
If I went that far, so yeah, I can imagine it's a bit of a gapping nightmare.
Yeah, it's just too far, too close to my 3 wood. However, it is adjustable. You can loft up to make it fit in your bag. But for those looking for distance and forgiveness, honestly, it's really hard to beat this year.
Yeah, and so adjustable with the MiFi hosel. I think there's 2 to 5 hybrid, I'm going to say. So 17 degrees to 25, 24. So you can find a gap for it. It's got that adjustable weight system at the bottom as well. Again, for the better ball striker who might want a bit of fade bias, you can stick a heavier weight in the toe. It's got a lot going for it. Tappers, you've hit this as well. My only qualm with it, and this is why I think it was still forgiving, I found, it's quite hard to frame the ball, I find. I think for the higher handicap who wants a confidence-inspiring hybrid, the all black head with no real white lines on the face and a heavier head might deter them slightly, would be my opinion. Neil, what were your thoughts on it?
I was going to say that I think it's the best looking hybrid that I've seen this year.
Easily.
I think that black and grey combo just looks super cool.
It's so nice. It's so nice.
I think we all want stuff in our bag that's going to look premium and expensive, and this is right up there. I also really like the shape and the profile. I've got a Titleist, it's an older Titleist TS3 hybrid in my bag, but if I was thinking, and I like it, but if I was thinking about changing this year, I'd definitely test that Cobra, because having hit it, I know that I already like it, so I'd probably try and come up with a short list, and that would be on it.
Yeah, definitely. I do sort of miss the. I don't think it maybe wouldn't suit this one. I do miss the rails they used to put on the bottom of their hybrids that would just help with turf interaction a little bit, but maybe that wouldn't really suit this one. I mean, a great club. We all love how it looks. Again, go and get it in your hand to see. I think there's space in it for a higher handicap, mid to higher handicapper. I would probably just put you in the Aerojet hybrid if you want a Cobra one or any other of the sort of more forgiving ones. But I think if you look for distance, it's a great club. We all really liked it. I tested the utility iron. I liked it. They've got rid of adjustability on it, and I want to ask you chaps what you think about that. The previous King Tec utility had adjustability. We've seen the eye crossover from Ping come this year with adjustability. Sam, I think it's really important to have adjustability on an iron like this. To your point earlier, that it needs to fit in the bag correctly. There's still lots of options. I think there's 4 different options of loft, but when a club's been launched with adjustability and you see one get it taken away, do you think people are going to miss that in this sort of iron?
Yeah, I think so. I think having that adjustability just gives you the freedom and the option to be able to either tune a certain ball flight or fight against a certain ball flight as well. But exactly like I said in the hybrid, for the most part, utility irons don't go too far. That's not normally what they're known for. It's normally the better player looking for a long iron shape, but with the forgiveness of, for example, like a hybrid or a metal wood. But yeah, I think the adjustability will be a miss for those basically just looking to fit it perfectly in their bag, replacing the iron that the long iron that they're looking to replace it with.
Yeah, definitely. And I think tappers with the Ping eye crossover, they've hidden that adjustability really well. So it doesn't look all chunky and clunky on the hosel. The Cobra looks better for removing the adjustability, I think, personally, because you haven't got that in there. But the ability to adjust loft and lie could be something people miss. But you've got 2 options if you do want it and you don't want it, I guess.
I would always just advise people, this is one of the clubs that I think, or areas of the bag where you most benefit from a fitting, actually.
Yeah, definitely.
The argument has been made and won around irons and drivers. I think a lot of people will get fitted for both of those. But that gapping element in that area of the bag, and more than just gapping, just having stuff that you feel confident using, you don't have the fear of when looking down behind the ball at what you're looking at. You feel like you can get it up and away, and it hits the right distance gap. Therefore, if you are going to get fitted, then the need for adjustability in the actual product that you end up putting in your bag strikes me as being less important. I'm not trying to take a different stance to both of you, but I wouldn't be choosing Ping or Cobra. I know it's not in Cobra anymore, but I wouldn't be choosing either of those because of the adjustability, because I would probably get fitted. But I appreciate that with a one-off club, the temptation to just pick it up off the shelf and buy it is greater.
It's a very fair point, I think, because ultimately we've all got adjustable drivers. I don't touch it. I got fitted for it, and that's how I like to hit it. So maybe I think there's arguments either way for this. But a really good utility. Again, I tend to strike it quite low out the face. Really nice low out the face. Doesn't ruin the shot either way. So I think this can be a club. I sort of described it in my review as like a gateway utility iron if you're a slightly higher handicap who wants one, maybe. I don't know. You know what I mean? You can gently ease your way into it's quite a tricky club to hit, I think. So go and test it out. That will about wrap it up, I think. That is all the new equipment for this week. Still plenty more to come over the next few weeks. Putters, golf balls, now the drivers are pretty much out of the way. A lot to look at. If you want to read any of our reviews, any of the products spoken about today in more depth, the links to them will be in the description of however you're watching or listening to this. But for now, I think that's about it. Neil Tappin, thank you very much.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Sam, great debut, mate. Pleasure to have you on, and we'll see you again very soon.
Yeah, thank you very much. Thanks for having me.
And thank you very much for watching and listening. We'll be back next week with another episode.